Hey everybody, I'm with Koray Tugberk today, the founder of Holistic SEO. If you have not met him or heard of him, he is the one that really popularized Topical Authority. He has hundreds of students with success stories, and I think one that just stuck out to me, Koray, was you had a student sell one of their projects for 10 million euro. Was that right?
Yeah, it's actually over 10 million
Awesome.
euros, and we did just an interview like last Sunday, and we will be publishing it very soon as well.
That's incredible. What's the niche? Can you say that?
I didn't take permission, but I believe when people check his profile, it will be like visible. I guess I can just say finance, but I can't give you
Finance?
further information since he has many NDAs, so saying more wouldn't be appropriate.
Okay. It isn't, I'm not gonna say the full thing. It's not the guy that made the TLD is money. It's not that one, is it? It's like a stock app. Okay, because I like whoever made that one is part of your course. Strike money. If that's not the one, I liked that guy's.
Ah, That not that one, but it's a nice case study too, because the strike that
Yeah.
money comes from India charts and they implement the strategy. I helped them for the initials. Then from there they have taken
Well, that's
and
awesome
it's
about
trying to.
yeah. Awesome about the student. I haven't taught nearly as many people as you. I always try to teach people, and I love that feeling of seeing somebody succeed. They have a dream or a vision, and they actually follow through with what you've said. One, it's validating as a teacher. Even if you know in your head, you're into philosophy, I think. So in Greek, there's two different kinds of, and there's like a knowing that's a felt and a knowing just in your brain. So like, I think as a teacher, when you get to see your succeed, there's that twofold knowing. You truly get to know like, man, what I'm doing is impactful. It is changing lives, and it's just a nice thing. I appreciate the teaching that you've done.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it actually makes me way much more happier than my own case studies because after a point I published like 124 websites by giving their names, despite some of the clients are getting angry. So after a point you just get bored with that, but once people start to actually implement it
Yeah.
by learning from you and they start to publish their own successes and cite you back, it's a unique happiness. I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I love that. So is your course out still, or did you shut it down again?
Uh, Actually, the person who sold his website also asked the same thing because it was funny. I can explain it like this. In the first year, after I believe the 45 days or something, I shut down the doors for a year. The purpose there
Yep.
was actually showing people that we are not doing it just for money. Even if you have the money, you might not be able to reach out to course. So that's the student who sold his website for over 10 million euros. He also couldn't reach out at the beginning, and I just have sent him actually a backdoor URL. But first I asked him, what's your motivation? Why you are trying to buy it, for instance? Right now, I believe I made my point already to the SEO industry by staying constant and consistent. And so for now, I didn't close it. But in the future, again, we can maybe close it and we can focus on some new products as well. But for now, it is open.
The course, I think, was one of the biggest benefits, I think, of the course was, I don't know if you know this, Corey, but I watched probably about 150 hours of your YouTube stuff. And that was before you had the course. So I was watching everything, and I watched it repeatedly. And then, I mean, I went as deep as I could go where, like, if you had, I mean, just to be honest, if you had even like a glimpse of a screenshot where I could find a website on there, I was like, all right, I'm going to look at this website. I'm going to look at the sitemap. I'll look at the code. I'll look at, you look at everything. And I don't know about you, but I think that's actually the best way to learn. I just look at websites, and once you have a certain skill level as an SEO, you know what to look for.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not gonna like I think you have some things that are kind of clever that I wouldn't be able to recognize without your course. But for the most part, you're able to recognize a good bit. So I've learned looking at that. But when you had your course, I had done all this work to create a dictionary of like everything that you said. So I created this Google Doc. And then in your course, like the very first thing was that dictionary. I'm like, man, this would have been a whole lot freaking easier if I just would have had like,
Yeah, I actually had 8 beta testers for 2 years. Initial course was like 85 hours. Then they told me that no one is gonna finish that. So I spent like 2 years.
I would. Yeah.
Still, the recordings are there actually in Video Cypher. Maybe I can edit them or gift it to every member if they don't get bored. Basically, I have spent like 2 years to fit everything into the 9 hours. Initially, now in total it is more than 14 hours, and I will try to hit 40 hours of lectures before the end of 2024 as well. And about that video recordings, it's true that actually I always had a glimpse of video site name. Out of 2 reasons. First, I have a bad videographer. The second reason is that actually I wanted to keep them there as well. It makes clients angry, I must tell it. But there was a moment, an SEO from Bangladesh, he has sent actually his son's pictures to me while studying the case studies, and he said that actually I was able to help his family to supply the family directly. So then I decided to keep it there, even if it risks me for, let's say, legal situations. But it wasn't a problem in my idea, because if someone sees the website name, if they learn by the website name something, and if they help themselves, then it's okay. I can also endure 2 weeks of threaten from the client. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you for enduring that. And I don't think many SEOs are trying to. I understand that some people would feel weird, I guess, about their site being seen, but there's not a lot of people out there that are going to actually attack you. I guess for certain sites, I can see where like a publicly site or brand might be hesitant, and I can see why your money, your life sort of thing could be a little hesitant. I work with a lot of that, and they're hesitant with anything. So, but if you're not in those niches, it doesn't matter, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's true. And it's also funny, actually. If you go to the Topical Authority digital, and if you scroll down, you will see a testimonial from one of my actual current friends and former clients. And we put emoji to hide his face, because he's also in finance niche. And the funny thing is that when I mentioned this person to do our latest, biggest successful student, the person who sold his website for 10 million euros, he said that actually he was able to find that person by looking at the website, and that's why he was able to reach out to me, because he realized that that website was successful and protected from every update, and then he started to learn through the website, and then he wanted to do even more. So I also understand why some people try to hide it, but it's very rare. You know, like you won't, 99.99% of the time you are safe, to be honest. It's very exceptional to have this type of competitors.
I agree. That actually is a way to ask you some other things that people ask me, and some of the questions I wrote down. So one of the questions, and you talk about this all the time, but the vision is to create a website that can survive and thrive, not just survive, through all the updates that are happening. And really, every update, even though we can't predict what they are, we know that updates are all about, one, it's going to make it cheaper or better. It's some sort of business reason why there's an update. Google gathered enough data where now it's confident that there's going to be better results, or better can be in 2 things. One, users will go to the platform and use it more, or better is it's going to be for them. And as long as they're hitting certain thresholds, if it saves them enough money, then they're fine dipping down. So with that general mindset of this is kind of how Google operates, you want to do that. What do you think is going to, how are you preparing for the next year, 2 years, 3 years of SEO? Is there anything that you're doing? What would you recommend?
So when it comes to preparing for Google, it's not like actually a regular traditional SEO. You need to do business analysis. You need to understand their business obstacles. And I don't directly want to mention the patents, but it is directly related to there. Because I know that, for instance, just right now, for generative AI, Google, IBM, any Chinese company, and of course Microsoft, if you look at their patents, they are just piling up all the generative AI patents. And most probably they won't be able to implement at least 50% of these patents either, but they just actually race with each other to get more and more patents. And when I look at their patterns, the only thing that I see is that they want to prevent their competitor from doing that invention. So for the next 3 years or the 4 years, when I look at the Google, I always follow their engineers, and I always check what these engineers are actually working on and what type of patterns these engineers are actually applying to. For instance, in my opinion, the moment they mentioned the phrase perspectives in their Google search, in their also Google blog announcement, and also there were patterns related to the perspectives, it was very clear that forum type of content was about to thrive or explode, because they were also doing some different type of purchases just for forum type of servers and forum type of, let's say, APIs. I also mentioned it actually in one of my Blue Hat SEO case studies, because Google and also Meta, they were trying to use LE5 subreddit to train large language models. The LE5 means explain it to me like I am 5. It's a subreddit.
Yes.
The problem there is all the LE5 subreddit questions, they're like hypothetical questions. Google is good at extracting the facts, but how about extracting opinions, humor, or criticism, and getting different type of perspectives about a single type of subject? Then we start to see that actually the quality rater guidelines actually started to change. We started to see something that they added there called human effort. And they directly told that even if human effort makes a content less accurate, they consider it more quality. Then they started to bring forum structured data, website name structured data, and website name update. So when you look at all these different layer of changes, it's clear that we are actually going a certain type of direction. And it should actually signal you that you should have some first-person perspectives and safe answers. I explained the concept of safe answers in my Saigon speech last year. I also added to the course the Topical Authority 2.0 module. It has lots of different speeches on the stage just about the safe answers. If you're able to add different perspectives for the same thing and its definitions, you can, for instance, for that publicly traded company, I'm not able to tell the name due to the NDA, but you, I believe, already cached that website that starts with maybe X. For instance, for that website, you can define laser cutting, let's say, from a manufacturer angle, from a user angle, customer angle, engineer angle, observer angle, or a different type of angles. Whenever you focus on a different perspective, you increase the chance of ranking there. So for the last, or let's say next 2-3 years, I suggest, and last year too in my Estonia speech, I directly told that, go for e-commerce if you can. Even if you have a single and simple product on your website, it might be a course, it might be an ebook, it might be a very simple testing kit. You don't have to produce or, let's say, store it or ship it by yourself. But try to have a login system in your website, an alert system, or a community that is attached to your website as well. If nobody searches for your website name, and if you don't have a proper certain type of sites, then it's true that you are competing against the most similar website to you. But you also both together compete against other type of sites. And if your website type is in the losing cluster, it doesn't mean anything after that point, how many referring domains you have, or how many users or what type of CTR you have. If you are in the losing cluster, you will keep losing the rankings. There are some exceptions, like some media sites, they exist even before the internet. They are like real seed sources, and it's not that easy to compete against them. So don't compare yourself to them, please. If you have that level of page rank, you can rank even a blank page just by typing some random gibberish text there. But if you are not, let's say, an e-commerce, or if you are just a vol website, I call them vol site actually, just there is a vol and you put text on it. There is nothing else there that I can do, basically. I can't submit anything, I can't engage with anything, I just read and click and go somewhere else. And if there are, let's say, 500 sites that link to an e-commerce site, the search engine will rank e-commerce site directly. They will just try to remove the middleman because no one searches for the middleman anymore. That's one of the issues currently we are having actually between Google and the SEO community.
That. My I have my whiskey website that I'm working on where it's definitely not a full application of your principles. I'd call it like a percent application where I just I can't train people. It's really hard to do your training to get someone to go through the rigid sort of structure that you have. And if you have other projects that take priority, it's really hard to train those people and spend the time. So I'm trying to make do with what I got. And that's one of the things that from the beginning, I knew I wasn't going to be able to win if I was just focusing on, let me just talk about other people's stuff.
Okay.
So like, while I think I'm at like 13,000 monthly visits right now. And for me, uh, all I want to do is get traffic and then switch to selling stuff. Because I need, like you said, I need an action. I need, even if it's just selling bar equipment, like a cocktail shaker or selling
Yeah.
anything, just sell something. And then eventually maybe sell whiskey, sell whatever. But yeah, I've been trying to people too that like e-commerce is where it's at. And I don't know if you've seen this, but e-commerce, it seems like one of the things to do with right now is just sheer volume of URLs. So you have a ton of products, or let's say right now I have a client where they're three different sizes, but if they were to break up the three sizes into different URLs, like let's
Yeah.
say table dimensions or something, that's actually a good thing. You should do that because Google wants to see everyone that's winning right now seems to just have the most URLs. I don't know if you.
It would be especially helpful if you have actually higher level of page rank, because when it comes to the number of the URLs, if I explain it from the Google's point of view, for instance, there is someone that I really appreciate in Google, the Dr. Nayork and Dr. Metzler. These two people are directly working in the research department in Google, and they have invented that they call dense retrieval. So when you search for white Nike Adidas socks or white, let's say just white socks or white Nike socks or white Adidas socks, they are trying to actually find the most representative denses in all these queries, and they try to understand what type of query phrase should be weighted in what way. For instance, if I remove the word white, what percentage of these results will still be actually satisfactory? They try to understand whether the color, whether the brand, whether the socks, which means the product type, are more important in the query. And in this case, they actually understand that someone who searches for white Adidas socks, they are also satisfied with Nike socks too. So in this case, the brand actually doesn't need to be weighted that much. So if you're able to process the queries as the search engine is doing, then you can actually adjust number of URLs for different type of combinations of the behaviors. For instance, in the gun industry, for some brands of the guns, the barrel millimeter is really important, and you should open new pages. But some of them, it doesn't change the search behaviors or user behaviors that much. In currency conversion industry, for instance, last year, and I also tell this always, the main thing about the core updates is type of the site and query relevance. They change the query networks. Today, for instance, when it comes to the currency conversion, the phrase of today's rate might be relevant to the exchange rate. But 2 years later, or maybe just today, they can actually divide these query networks into two. The today's rate might be associated with the tourist rate, and the exchange rate might be related to the actual conversion or conversion rate. In this type of query semantic changes, the ranked documents also will be changing tremendously, and you should be prepared with your design or the vector that you are creating on your site. And you should guess, in the next core update, they might change the things. That's why I also suggest a kind of check and refresh, a maintenance mode in these topical maps and content networks, like every 6 months, if possible.
So with you basically, this kind of touches back on the perspectives thing too, but there are ways certain perspectives more or like break out that query, like you said. So would you say, is it documents that would have both, let's say you think you're imagining that things could go in a certain direction. I'll create a document just for that. Or do you create a bigger document that simply consolidates both of the possibilities?
80% of the time, I suggest the second one, a single document with multiple contexts and the behaviors that focus on one main entity. And according to the search behaviors that you are observing, adjust your main context and supplementary context, or the main content and supplementary content. Most of the time, if you are in the e-commerce, you will need to go with the product related features and the buy context, of course. But in the mid-ground, for instance, you can add video reviews, text reviews, doctor reviews, if you're in the medical niche, for instance. In the most bottom part, you can also add textual customer reviews. And in the most bottom part, for instance, you can keep adding actually the definitions or how to use it or the symptoms and more. But if you have a high page rank site, I mean, like, let's say you are 30% higher according to your understanding in the page rank, better than your competitors. In this case, you can open actually multiple pages. It wouldn't harm you. But most websites today, they don't have it. So that's why I suggest actually be more economical with single multi-purpose pages. And this will also help for the main thing. So page rank per page. Technically, there are two ways of increasing the page rank on a website. You will get external page rank, or you will distribute internal page rank better. If you can't buy links, still you can actually distribute the authority in a better way. And if you just decrease the amount of the URLs, the page rank per page will be increased. So it's something actually I would always try to use immediately on every site, because whenever you remove an unnecessary page, you are increasing page rank per web page, which will be helpful for higher students.
I literally just had this conversation with, so while I own Content Sprout and I have the Flask and Barrel project, I'm the director of marketing for a company called Helium SEO. My CEO was just asking, hey, we just something else, right? Pretty quickly too. And for my taste, but especially in the marketing niche, I'd say AI struggles to make good content for marketing because so much of marketing it's always changing. There's a bunch of reasons. But every time we publish, I tested it last year. Every time I publish like 100 articles, rank goes down because we don't have a good enough site structure to properly distribute page rank. So what's happening is exactly what you said. It's just we haven't built the ship right. And if we're trying to add cargo to it, it's like sinking every time. So it's like, no, we got to distribute the weight. We got to make so that's. I keep seeing this, and I developed this. It's easy to do, but I created that just makes it really easy for me to make. So I think for me, what I'm looking at is it's kind of I call it like my content pruning guide or something. But it's if the page, because you got to give them some time. You need to look at how many internal links does it have, what's the click depth, how many external links does it have. And then what was the other thing I'm looking for? There might be one other I was looking for too, but I basically just pull in all the data for in the past 3 months and 100 impressions, I think, and lower or something. So I look at that and I try to figure out, what's going on. But for large sites, that seems to work for me. I'm typically trying to do stuff where it's like 80%. Even if you could make it more perfect, if you could just do the 80% of the work with a fraction of the effort, do that until you're forced to do the heavier lifting.
Definitely, because most of the time the SEO, I believe there are two fundamental problems in the SEO industry. First of all, it's not regulated. The second of all, it's not taught in universities. So because of that, none of the companies on this planet actually don't have, unfortunately, a proper SEO team. Usually, the leader of the SEO team has a bigger vision, but that vision can be implemented as much as you're actually second person, third person, or the fourth person. So that's why you should always work with the statistics. So you should spend your time by teaching them every teeny tiny detail, or you should just fix actually 80% of the site very easily and then find the biggest second effect that you can actually interact with.
That's exactly I just may because SEOs it hurts clients really because you have a limited budget, and if you're trying to for your own ego or curiosity or whatever it is, just like experiment or focus on these tiny little things, like get out of the world of SEO and think as a business owner. You have a limited amount of money. How would you get the greatest impact by diverting that money to different areas of marketing? Is it really that one? Probably
not, yeah. Because when it comes to the budget management in the SEO projects, as you say, you should be able to return that money back as clicks, conversions, and basically clicks that lead to the money. And to be able to do that, you will need to find the most valid way. If you play with this scientific section a lot, and I love it, but I have the conditions to be able to do that. Yeah. So it's my hobby, basically. But most of the time in SEO, you will need to go with the, let's say, the heavy machine. You will need to handle the biggest problems first as much as possible. But if you have a very strong competitor, like if your competitor is also handling and fixing everything in a progressive and advanced way, then you will need to play the same game with them, because at the end of the day, this is a comparative ranking system. They don't rank you actually according to your quality. They rank you according to your compared quality to the second competitor. So the purpose is being more quality than them. Still, you might have the best content according to your opinion, but it doesn't mean that the Google will actually give you a space there. As I say, it's also about the cost. You might be quality, but how much cost you are creating for the search engine, whether you worth for that cost or not. And they will do lots of different comparisons before ranking, let's say, during these core updates.
Yeah, there's a ton. And the Google leak was absolutely that stuff. So what is it? The focus score, the site embeddings, all that stuff. Like all that's very important. And the thing that was biggest for me, and you've already touched on it, was talking about the clustering and the categories. And PageRank is deprecated, and now it's PageRank NS. And PageRank exactly that. It's it's clustering. So now instead of being measured against the entirety of the web, you're being measured against who you should be measured, which is
definitely. And to be honest, when I see the leak, it was like some people, like let's say 15% of our people in our community, they were directly tagging me by telling that, hey, this is from course, this is from this case study, this is from this patent. Yeah, but you don't need to see a leak to be that. For instance, I didn't get any surprising feeling, to be honest, and I was even a little bit sad because you don't need to see an API leak to believe us. You know, like we already rank the websites, we already do the research, we already gather all this data, and there is always a game that we play with these Googlers and Google Search Relations teams. Unfortunately, even if they want to, they can't be honest with us, and we shouldn't blame them for that. Personally, I directly tell it. If a Google Search Relations team member tell me something with good intentions, I will definitely exploit it. This is my job. My job is ranking sites, turning clicks into money, and no one can blame me for that. So also no one can blame them for actually lying to us. So that's why we should actually professionally clear our definitions and determine our borders with them, in my opinion. So the API leak didn't shock me at all. And I would like to also, if the internet is good enough here, I would like to also mention dear Bill Slavsky here. If he sees us from somewhere, maybe, I hope, because he was like a lighthouse. The moment that actually I lost him, I feel like actually we are going in a dark age because no one else there is actually finding these patterns anymore. Then I found a way to actually sustain myself with my own system. But still, we should always thank him because he was the biggest API leak in our industry, to be honest. And that's why when I do my conference, I would like to honor his name and his family as much as I can.
I am right. Without Bill, I don't know. Initially, I wouldn't have adopted I wouldn't have followed you as quickly as I did because I had already read so much of Bill's stuff because he's the only one I knew of. There's one other guy, like, was it Blind 5-Year-Old, I think is his website or something. Anyway, so we'll count it on 3 fingers how many people were like Bill Slawski. By the Sea, the lighthouse example, he even uses a lighthouse. I believe there was at least the lighthouse picture was used on one of his blog posts, but it's a great example. He is a lighthouse. So I'm glad you call him out. He's done a lot for the industry, and I really think that you took what he did. And the one thing Bill didn't do, and no worry, you don't have to do this, but he didn't apply it and demonstrate this in the same way you did.
But I hope you will be able to.
Are you still there?
Edit the video.
Okay, so we just lost him. Yeah, so Koray's difference is that he applied Bill's methodology and he went further. So Bill was just putting out content like, hey, here are some concepts to think about. Here are some principles. Here's what's in the patents. Here's where we think things are going. But to actually do that, then to share the website, to show the Search Console rankings, That's, I think, an awesome
Came
dude.
back. So, sorry for internet.
Oh, you're fine. I was
Okay.
explaining to the void why I liked what I liked about you standing on the shoulders of Bill, and you actually applied a lot of the stuff that Bill
Yeah,
was talking about, and you went further too. So like, I think that was the one thing that was missing is a lot of people were bored by Bill's philosophy degree. So like, I like that kind of stuff anyway. I've always, I mean, I've been taking philosophy courses since preschool. I have a weird upbringing, so like to me, Bill, it just feels like home. But for other people who are business owners, they're just like, I don't see how I can relate this stuff and make money. And I think the next stepping stone to be like, let's convert this and show you how.
definitely. And also, after we, yeah, after we lost him, actually, I published a video, a tribute to him, and I called him Charles Darwin of search
Yeah, I saw that.
engines. Because regardless of your stance about the theories of the Charles Darwin, still, it's a reality that actually, if the Darwin wouldn't exist, it wouldn't be easy for us to question the idea of God, for instance. And if the Bill Slavsky wouldn't exist, we wouldn't be able to actually create these ideas, these methods, this level of detail, or this level of confidence as well. So he was definitely a lighthouse for our visions of SEO.
That's awesome. Into some more questions. We could, I'm sure we'll just keep chatting away. The one other question that I saw that stuck out was, where do you see search going with AI? So I think there's two different ways. The user that asked this, I don't know if they didn't really explain exactly how they see this, but I see this question in two ways. There are AI search engines coming out. So there's Perplexity that's out. I'm sure you already have this, but there's the beta version or alpha version of Search GPT. Dang it. Koray. Freaking Turkey, man. It's amazing that I can talk to a man in Turkey, but still rough trying to actually conduct a full talk with the man. I'll have to move to Turkey. You know?
Andrew, are you bored while waiting for me? I guess you can't hear me right now.
Let's do this.
I guess I need to refresh this page. You hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Sorry for this interruption. I know it's a mood killing.
Totally fine. Well, I'll edit this. So
Thank you.
the question was
the new house is
about,
really good, but there is no internet.
Yeah, I know. You need to get the Musk internet, man, the Musknet, some satellite. But so where do you see search going with AI was the question. Both with generative AI allowing you to create content, and then there's also, and then you're talking about perspectives. So perspectives with AI, it's a little bit challenging. So there's that element. There's going to be AI search engines like Perplexity and Search GPT. So this is market share. All of a sudden, it becomes a lot more viable to optimize for other search engines. And I don't know if SEO will just be about Google.
So about the generative AI, first of all, I don't think that the search engine optimization will be that. Maybe it will be that as the version of today, but it will always be evolving and changing, because as long as there is a search bar and there is free market or a liberal economy model, there will always be an engine and optimization for that. So as an SEO, you will be safe. When it comes to the content generation methodologies that we are using, since everyone is able to generate content very good without knowing anything right now, since we are just imitate the word combinations by using some mathematical algorithms, it creates actually an importance for real world entity identity. And this is one of the reasons that most of the content sites actually started to be hit, because you don't need to be an expert to create the expert level content anymore. And if you don't have any function on the website, if you don't have any brand search demand, if you don't have any brand existence, it means that actually it's very hard for you to protect yourself and your necessity on the search engine result pages. This was also one of the other reasons that Google started to rank all the forum content, because they believed that the forum content was human-made, and they actually started to rank human content for humans in a human-based search engine. So it was like search for humans. Then they created the notes. Maybe you remember the notes. People were able to add notes to the search results by writing their experience about the page. It's not something new. They tried it in 2015 as, I believe, Google Answers and also Google Wiki and a few more things, because there was a Google sidebar, basically, and you were writing your experience and, let's say, your opinions about the content directly there. We saw similar stuff in Microsoft Copilot. If you go to the Microsoft Edge, open the Copilot, go to a website, and there you will actually see some signals that the Copilot is giving you. For instance, they actually give you the traffic amount of the website. They also even give you actually sometimes the search demand or backlink information and mentions of the site to actually help you to understand whether the site relies on real information or real identity or not. So I believe the generative AI created a problem, especially for, let's say, reality of identity. So if you are just a wall site, in my terminology, I mean, if there is no difference between a printed wall and your website, just the content, it will be a problem for you. But if you have a function beyond the content, and if you're able to actually prove your necessity and overall unique information as much as possible, it will be safe for you. And most people are not able to actually hide their fingerprints, because many people who use generative AI, they leave fingerprints. They are not able to hide the ChatGPT signatures. I also explained this in my course. Whenever I get actually an output, for instance, from the generative AI, I'm always able to hide the fingerprints. If they check actually my Google Auto research, there is a concept there called stylometry. The stylometry basically means that they are able to understand the style of the writer. And if there are 9,000 websites that write in the same style all the time, let's say you always use the phrase overall at the beginning of the last paragraph, which is a signature from ChatGPT. Let's say you always end your, let's assume you are always using an adverb after certain type of predicate. These are signatures of the large language models are using, and you should know how to hide it. Another part is the format of the content and distributional semantics. When you ask a question to the large language models, it just answers the questions in their own mind, but they don't know the query relevance, and they don't know the rest of the document either. And they don't know also which documents they are competing with. So an SEO will need to configure the distributional semantics and balance of the context on the page. When it comes to the market share and creating documents for, let's say, chat-based systems or answer-based systems and regular information retrieval systems, it's quite different. Because whenever you do a search on ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, you will see that the websites that are ranking on Google, Microsoft Copilot, they are not ranking on Google. They already lost lots of updates. The main reason for that is ranking for a specific question with a paragraph and ranking for a query with an entire document. They actually rely on different systems. And to be able to optimize for both systems, you will again need to understand heavy semantics, because while you are getting more rankings from large language models, you can lose rankings on Google too. This is also one of the possibilities there. Another part is the average query length. People will be creating queries with maybe 70 words, maybe 80 words, with lots of for instance, I can add a question like, what to give a cat who just fought, over 8 years old, with scars, and with this breed, with anxiety problem, and with these hormones. We don't ask these questions to Google type of search engines, which means information retrieval system, but I can ask it to the ChatGPT. But they will be doing that, they will be turning these attributes or adjectives and conditions into the certain attributes, like 8 years old cat will be senior, for instance. The injured or injuries in that area will be on the skin, so the coat of the cat will be another attribute. And they will turn every adjective into an attribute. Then they will check all the related phrases or dances around them, and then they will try to hit all these specific sections first for the document. Then they will try to hit these sections for every paragraph. The moment that they are able to find the most coverage means the mutual context and the phrases between the question and the answer, they will start to rank the answers. But that document might not rank at all for the Google because there is no query. For that, people don't search for it, so index won't be created for that. So it will create a situation that SEOs will need to understand semantics very much better, especially document organizations. They will need to understand better, and they will need to enhance their contextual richness, which means, for instance, if I search for debt consolidation for teachers, debt consolidation for farmers, debt consolidation for veterans, debt consolidation for other 4,000 different occupations.
Yeah.
You can't open a new page for all of them. But in a way, you will need to find a way to represent all these occupations or their group names in your website so that when someone searches it on that chat systems, you can actually be relevant and be linked from these. You don't have to say farmer, but you can find a more representative name, which brings us to the lexical semantics. If this is the hyponym, you will need to find a hypernym, which means a better name or a group name, a root name for more type of entities. If you're able to handle these type of information organizations, then you can actually rank for both of them. And these will create another problem that we all face, entry cost. The entry cost for SEO goes maybe 100% higher every year. So for instance, in 2018, you can dominate a niche, maybe just 50,000 USD. Today, you will be spending that money in 3 months, to be honest. So unfortunately, next year it will be also harder too. That's why SEO should be seen as part of business consultancy and business digital identity management. If your business model is not convenient for the queries that you are trying to rank for, it will be harder for you. If you want to rank for, let's say, GBP to Euro, you will see that actually bank-like websites are ranking there. If this is the Euro currency, they can bring any predicate here, like send Euro, convert Euro, transfer Euro, invest Euro, interest rate for Euro, calculation, inflation calculation for Euro, Euro currency index, Euro technical analysis, and many other things. But if you are just a converter, you can't do the rest. So your business model is not convenient there. So you will need to find a way to be relevant to the other contexts. And it's not about just opening the page. You need to support the activities after the click. And that's why the business model is really important. And that's why I always say to clients that I understand you don't sell that product, but if you don't rank for that part of the web or that part of the query network, it will affect the other part. So it's a game of compromising, actually.
It is. And so I want to, you said a lot of stuff that I know the people that haven't interacted with you heavily aren't going to follow. So I want to make sure you said one thing that's really important. Support the activities after the search. So there is an intent behind the search. And basically what he's saying, guys, is you need to, if you're going to give a review, if you're going to give anything, if you're just going to talk about something, what's the point of them searching? Are they looking to buy a course? Are they looking to purchase something right now? Is it part of a incredibly long B2B marketing funnel? Well, have a tool that fits somewhere in the marketing funnel for this long B2B thing, or you're not, maybe it's not even a tool you sell. Maybe it's stuff. You need something though. You need an act take. And this is why e-commerce is crushing all of these review sites and why content sites are missing out, essentially. Yep. Part of the reason. So yeah. That's one. And then you also said distributional semantics. And I want to make sure we touched on that. Distribution being kind of just like word usage and grammar usage and just kind of like how are we actually putting we'll call it content and all of the intricacies of content. And you're talking about distributing it on specifically just on a page.
You also mentioned in API like the site embeddings. So in my terminology, I actually call it site-wide n-grams. So there are some certain distributional phrases that should be always appearing together, site-wide, segment-wide, and page-wide. If you're able to distribute these things without creating gibberish content, by creating necessity behind them naturally, then yes, you will be relevant to the right section of the web and the index as well. And the distributional semantics is about actually reflecting the context without creating cost. Because when you look at the ranking algorithms, they mainly have two steps. One is actually about quantities. How many words appear together with how many different words. And checking these statistics are way much faster and way much easier. And this will be the first step of the ranking. They won't be checking everything that you say. They won't be processing every text that you are actually writing. because the specific algorithms, the understanding related algorithms, they will be triggered maybe 6 months later. And this is the reason that many websites which publish lots of documents, initially they rank higher. But then they start drop because the search engine realizes and processes the text and it doesn't work to rank actually. But from distributional semantics point of view, from quantitative analysis point of view, it makes sense to rank initially. So that's why I usually use distributional semantics for higher initial rankings. When it comes to sentential semantics, which means semantics between sentences, declarations, propositions, is for the second section of the ranking, which is re-ranking. If you have a good initial ranking, your re-ranking score will probably be also very much better too. I didn't put these things into the course since they are really advanced, but I have written some of them in the case studies for ranking purposes.
And to tie it to the Google patent leak, the re-ranking and initial ranking, what is it called? There's like it has a site-wide score. So to the best of my knowledge, you're getting kind of like an average score that's kind of spread. And if there's a deviation, a new page comes out and you deviate from that, then that's when things kind of go poorly for you. So you need to... It kind of changed my perspective of how I'm going to approach my SEO. I can't push out, well, I can still push out things that are incomplete. I cannot push out things that aren't at least a B. Like if all my content is an A+, I'm not going to publish things that are a B. I'll just wait until I can get it, or a C, sorry. I'm going to wait until it can reach a certain threshold. And you kind of just register it in your tool to tell you this is an A or a B. It's just like, okay, do you have images? Think of the principles of, I wrote a LinkedIn post about this, but I said that Google's basically just applying educational theory. It's applying that to how it's doing machine learning. So how does a human learn best? Well, that's also how algorithms happen to. So having a lot of examples, real world experience, being in multiple contexts, like this is how a human learns. So content doing that? If it's not, it could be this written text out there, but if you don't have images and examples, a perspective, maybe, in my opinion.
Actually, we talk about the 80 rule. Sometimes when I check the websites for their, let's say, algorithmic past, I also use quantitative analyses. For instance, how many pages have a number, how many pages have a percentage, how many pages actually have, how many measurement units, whether kilometer, whether something else, how many pages actually have a research citation, plus how many pages have the unique images, the images that actually start to appear only in your website. If you don't have any information beyond common sense, for instance, go to ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT that do not give any information beyond common sense, but act like an expert. You will see that it will create lots of fluff. Like it doesn't give them the answer, it doesn't give you the number, it doesn't give you any research about anything, but still it uses all the relevant phrases. It creates all the proper actually embeddings still, but there is no answer. That's why the search engines sometimes, they actually do these quantitative analyses, like, do you have the number, please, in the first sentence? Or do you have the date? Because if there is a query, and if that query is processed with the interrogative term when, you will need to have the time measurement unit, like in the top of the everything. It will need to be at the main context. If you don't have it clearly as it should be, then you won't be evaluated as a candidate as it should be. That's one of the things that people should be considering always. Yeah, I only published one public library, just one time. I called it SERP Beat. It was created actually for just tracking the SERP moment by moment, like milliseconds, and then turning it into a video to show that actually rankings are always fluid, but there is always ranges between them. And we created these videos. And that GitHub library, it also has these tools. It directly crawls or scrapes the entire site, and it actually checks how many times you have numbers, percentages, dates, researches, or what type of entities, attributes with what order. And you should also be that templated. If you are too templated, it means that you don't have the human effort, and the content is too mechanic, which is also not good. You should also show sometimes these, let's say, changing patterns so that actually it shouldn't be like that much mechanical. So I'm trying to delete or remove any machine signature that I can remove, and I try to keep it always unique from my competitors, because if you're able to give the first time information, it's always helpful for the long term. Let's say like this, if you go to the Google and search for, I will just give a random example, let's say alternatives of Time Doctor. This Google directly will be giving you some entities as SaaS. And these entities, some of them are not mentioned in the first 10 results. They find other tools from, let's say, the last 20 ranking documents, and they still add it to do that entity list that they are generating, for instance. So in this case, if you are the first source that mentioned that entity for the first time, it's an advantage for you, because they listed even the last ranking source and change what they are serving at the top, which means that actually if you are able to play with the memory of the search engine, if you are able to shape their knowledge graph and the connections and the definitions, then they will listen to you actually as the authority, which is the purpose, like author to define the things and associate the things. Basically, you can actually change even the contextual borders between the queries. And this is what actually many high-level authority sites are doing, even if they don't notice.
So I wish I could even dig into to what you just talked about. One of the most interesting that I think you've talked about, and you have a case study for, is changing contextual borders and changing context. That's going to get down too much of a rabbit hole, and I still have things I want to I want to go over. If we have time, I want to circle back on that. I wanted to show you something I did for the embeddings. Once I had the Google leak and I published on Search Engine Land, I tried to apply what I learned from the Google leak just to see, like, okay, if Google embeddings are actually used by Google now, then let's use an embedding tool to figure out where our content is. So basically, what I'm doing now is I try to take an entire blog. You can do this by category. You can do it by the entire site, but you want to look at the density of the clusters. Here's like a competitor, and this one is far more, okay, they have far denser amounts of content around like whatever the topic could be. It's really helpful though, because a lot of people, I find clients asking all the time, why am I not ranking? I have more backlinks. Well, let's actually look at this. It's helpful if you have a three-dimensional space where you can say, hey, here, instead of just a Google sheet, let's look at the visual here. They have, I mean, dense blue connecting like thoroughly for like a while you only have, this tiny little island over here, and you want to rank for best credit card or best dog food. You're not going to get that if you don't have this density here. And then it helps in another way too, because sometimes if the bubbles are too much, if they overlap too much, I love this because that means you're likely going to cannibalize. It's too similar. You don't need to do this. And you've talked about big media sites getting away with it, but even then, a lot of times, even if it's another context, if the bubbles through an embedding sort of thing are showing that it's like almost entirely overlapped, you should probably seek to blend those. I don't see a reason to keep them. So I do that. I look at specific keywords. You can look at like the specific document scores of relevance. All these tools now I really like what AI has done, where it's made the accessibility of these kinds of things. You don't even need to know Python. There's all these tools out there. So I'm looking at all sorts of stuff, and I want to look at the distribution. I want to see, okay, here we go. Here's the last piece I'll show you is I want to look at the relevance of, let's say it's one specific document, and I want to look at the scores of relevance now. So now if it's closer to 0, that's the more relevant it is. So this one site for Chase Points Guy, so this is like a NerdWallet sort of thing. They have 13 pages that are under a 0.2. That's pretty darn relevant. Like they have a ton of really relevant content around Chase Sapphire's credit card. Well, this other competitor only has 1. So to me, that's like, this is exactly giving numbers using embeddings. If Google's using embeddings, let's use an embedding tool, and let's try to, while we're not exactly applying it the same way that Google is, this should get you a little bit. I don't know if you do something like this or if you disagree with how I've applied it, but I'm trying to do this more.
We have similar stuff because, like, even 3 years ago, I have written some Python scripts. I never published these things, actually, out of 2 reasons. First of all, the industry comes like 5 years behind, so they won't be able to read even, so I didn't. But basically, what you shown there, I was creating information graph. For instance, how many times this entity appears in entire document network, and what are the predicates that come after that, and what are the other objects that are coming after that. There is a concept actually in my methodology. It's called strongly connected component. It's also a natural language processing concept, which means if I'm connecting this entity to here, the connection should be repeated back as well. But to be able to repeat it back, you will need to open another page for that entity. And usually I was using certain type of Python scripts to check these things quickly. And then I also have created a relevance calculation. Imagine that while you are typing the sentence, there is a query at the top, and the relevance is possible matching the embedding sometimes. For instance, this is your embedding, but the document context is like this, and this is their embedding for the same context, and it changes its shape a little bit like that. Because technically embeddings are working based on the similarity. It's very hard to actually have two different parts and comparing them to each other. It will be costly. But if you can create some visual clarity for that, people will like it to understand. The only problem there would be is they shouldn't aim to imitate their competitor. The purpose here is not just imitating them, going beyond them, actually, because if you have higher relevance, higher responsiveness, and higher page rank, basically you will be winning at the end of the day.
Yeah. With me, it's more just, I use this to, the embeddings to get more budget. So a lot of times, I think SEOs don't have enough of a tool set in their arsenal to be able to actually get what they need, and they don't have the ability to communicate it. So one of the things that I've been doing since really Stephen Kang was the first person from SEO Signals Lab. He's the first person that really brought me under his wing to teach me about this mindset. And ever since then, it's helped immensely for talking to CEOs, for getting business owners to hop on board, to get investment in areas or arenas where people have struggled in the past to get housing for SEO. How do you get that? Well, you got to paint a picture. They're businessmen. So it's like, all right, let's look at the analyze. You got to analyze the SERP. You got to look at your competitors, and it's about backlinks. It's about how many pages exist. Yeah. What's the how many pages do they create each month on average? Yeah. How many links are they creating on average? What's the NLP relevance of those links? So you can analyze with natural language processing now that. So there's all sorts of things you can add and layer. And then you just apply some, like, here's our cost to attain that. Yeah. Then now you have projections on, all right, well, it's going to cost us this amount of money. Divide that by 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. When do you want to win? Yeah. And that's set in stone.
There's one more thing actually that you do there. You also check the relevance to the query, but also there might be multiple pages that are relevant to the same query. It doesn't mean that they will always actually be cannibalizing with each other. They can also support each other. In my methodology, I didn't publish that, but it will be published with a book. I didn't name it, but I call it directly relevance attribution. Relevance of a page to a query can be attributed to another page, not just through the actual internal links, but also through their similarity as well, even if they rank for different versions or different connections of the same context or the same entity as well. So sometimes having more pages about a single entity, it will be helpful, and they don't have to cannibalize with each other if you know how to organize them properly. So relevance between them will always be helpful. Maybe you can also correlate the crawl requests too, because if you have more crawl hits from the search engine while publishing more documents or updating these documents, it's also a positive signal. You can also check indexing delay. For instance, the changes that you do, if they are being indexed like, let's say, I don't know, 10 minutes later, it's a good signal as well. In Strike That Money, you mentioned that website earlier. We have just 400 pages on that website. And the website has been crawled like 40,000 times a day, and 99% of the crawl hits are going to the HTML. It means that you are in the indexing tier 1, which means Google is caring about your site. But if you have, let's say, 1 million pages indexed, but Google crawls you just 20,000 times a day, it means that you don't have that much prominence, and probably you will see lots of stale data in your search console. Even if you fix your website, they won't realize it because you are not prioritized, because you are not worth the cost.
So how would someone find that if someone wants to start measuring crawl enterprise tools?
Anything actually. If it is a simple WordPress site, just go to your cPanel to there, go to the web server, I believe, access, you will get the log files. Then actually you can directly use a simple Python script to just analyze it. And you should do also DNS reverse proxy, but let's keep it simple. Just check what type of Google bot is coming to your site with what frequency. Also check your response headers for these hits. If you have a referrer response header, check actually what URLs are used for finding new other URLs, which means you can actually optimize your internal links better for this. Because if the website is in a negative ranking state, the hardest thing is showing more quality documents by starting from homepage. Because initially, Google won't listen to you. Even if you link your more and new quality pages, they won't be crawling it initially. They will be crawling it after a certain amount of time, and you can always observe this. So it will be one of the good ways of checking whether Google is listening to you or not.
So you're right. You're right on with this. If I send 2 backlinks to a page, my way getting Google to care about the page again. So that seems to be like, as long as I can send 2, I can do another crawl. I can have it.
I believe there is no tool for this yet, but you can also use Google Search Console API with the URL inspection methods, and you can check the referrer URL. And for instance, whenever I was doing shares on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, we were increasing the crawl stats, crawl requests, and we were seeing also these 2 social media platforms in the referrer URLs, which means actually Google was following these URLs and coming back to our website. It was increasing actual crawl requests. The important thing here is that if you stop sharing your site on these social media platforms, will Google still continue to crawl higher amounts or in the higher rate? If they continue in the higher rates, it means you have taken the attention of the algorithm and they start to process your content. It is important because, as I said, there is an initial ranking and re-ranking. And if you have more crawl starts, you will get these processes faster. And if you don't have more crawl requests, basically it will take longer time until they get your content, process it, serve it, or associate it with other sites. You should always be prioritized. And you will even see that your feature snippets, people also ask questions, knowledge panel appearances are correlated with your crawl requests as well.
I agree. And me and a buddy are calling it brand optimization. So we think that like SEO is not just, I don't even think SEO is the right term. It's going to be the term that everyone uses, but like brand optimization web is just all you're doing is you're optimizing how the brand is found on the web. And if Google is now wanting, as you said, you need to define your brand. It needs to be about something. You need traffic. A normal brand is going to have traffic. And I believe that traffic distribution is important too. There's so many patents on social media. The applications are different, but Google is looking at social media. And if you try to think like an engineer that's trying to beat out all these black hat SEOs, well, if it's just links, it used to be so easy to be black hat. You could just do links. Great, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do iframe loops and do links and like just whatever. There's all sorts of garbage you can do. But if Google can spread that out and say, now we want brand presence on social media. How many followers do they have? They could be fake followers. How many mentions on the web, periods? So like co-citation, co-occurrence. There's all sorts of different things now. And there's, I think, multimedia. Are they showing up search engine? Are they showing up on the video search engine? All of that stuff matters.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, actually. Since the 2019, I am defending the idea of having a YouTube channel, for instance, is helping for your website to rank higher as well. And also, if you are able to have more popularity through these social media platforms, and for instance, in my first on-crawl case study, I was comparing how many times I am being mentioned on Facebook and how many times my competitors are mentioned, whether I have a hashtag, whether they have a hashtag for their brand name or not. If you are being mentioned and if you have more index pages from Facebook for your own name, it will also be helpful for your proving your prominence and noticeability. I was creating these KPIs, and there was a tool, I don't remember, like Riverside or something, I don't remember exactly, but Rival IQ, I guess. It was a very old tool that I was using sometimes, and I was actually creating these reports and showing it to the CEO. We should hit these numbers to create a meaningful difference, and we were able to bring that finance website to the top again, and still today it is the biggest finance website in Turkey, for instance. They are reaching out to like 30 million clicks a month. Yeah, it's a huge site. It's bigger than many banks today, and that logic actually comes from there. When it comes to LinkedIn, for instance, I was checking the search features and the patterns. There are even patterns from Google for influencer score. They are even comparing influencers to each other. Even in the Google rater quality guidelines, they directly write there that if there is no thumbs up, if there are no answers, for instance, and if the thread is old, it's a non-quality thread from Reddit. And they skip that subreddit, for instance, as non-quality. But they say that if the thread is new, it's okay to not have any likes or these type of stuff. And they use it for training them. We were also using the same structure, for instance. We were organizing all the employees to create the buzz on the LinkedIn. And we were indexing all these documents from LinkedIn and linking and mentioning ourselves one more time. All the comments, all the social media, let's say, natural look, it was being created by multiple people as a culture. I remember that I was even taking Bird research paper from 2019, and I was distributing it to the developers, to the CEO, to the CMO, CPO, to train entire company, because SEO should be done with brands as a brand, to be honest. If you are just, as I say, a wall site, if your website is like a wall, I look the wall looks at me. There is no beyond interaction. It won't be working that well at the end.
Yeah, I completely. You agree with that. This piece is so important. And the part that I haven't tested yet, and I'm kind of scared to do it, just because it's not a leap of effort to do it the right way. Shit out of this. I mean, you could do like Mechanical Turk or whatever. You could do micro workers. Google doesn't have access, as far as we know, to the actual data like the quality data of the likes and stuff. So you can manipulate that. Obviously, we keep finding out that all of these platforms have backdoors and share data and all sorts of stuff. So like, who knows if that's true? But I do know that if someone you want to experiment, you can torch the actual platform for yourself, because fake followers, all that stuff, the platforms know. And if you ever want to actually use that platform.
Yeah. The good thing is that also you mentioned that the page rank doesn't have to come just from through the links. It can be stretched to different platforms, different angles, like mentions or linkless mentions, etc. The good point there is that, for instance, in the casino niche, there are some websites and they pretend like the official website of some really authoritative organizations, and they use Wikipedia for naming themselves like that. And the Google, unfortunately, they use Wikipedia directly for shaping their own knowledge graph. And whenever we actually use the Wikipedia for showing that this website is the official site of this global institution, directly the website is able to rank actually in the casino niche, for instance. This is one of the things that is already ranking and working there. And again, as long as you don't fix your internal factors as it should be, the external factors won't be helpful that much. But if your internal factors as it should be, whether it is about size structure or semantics, you won't need that much external validation too. Google already will like what you do anyway, and with just a few tricks like this, like imitating an official institution as an official site, and with some, let's say, good content there, you can directly be a direct competitor for many, let's say 20 years of websites or the businesses out there. The funny thing is, one of my actually dream jokes for Google was actually creating a fake country in Google SERP, directly with actually Wikipedia, fake country, fake president, fake history. I couldn't do it due to the time constraints, but I believe Google can buy it. If you create a Wikipedia page directly, they can even actually believe in United Nations official site or whatever. I am sure that you can actually do that too. So, and they will also rank the websites for that, because I was planning to publish all the fake news by creating trends or all of them. So they will actually go for that.
That's insane. Please have enough time to do that. I want to see someone do this.
I hope so one day.
So I have, with the brand thing, you brought up something where I think I'm doing this with my schema. I wanted to show you and see what you thought. But you can obviously claim and try to make, you can try to make some claims, right, about who you are and tie your brand to different things, or tie your website. So this site's not actually doing anything, right? Like we don't sell anything. But I wanted to at least have something where I could declare and kind of convince Google that I have an offering. So this is what I did for the offering is, let's do website.
Port value specification, I guess.
Where is this? Hold up.
Maybe it is in the production mode.
Geez, my mouse is dying over here. Okay, here.
Ah,
Why is my schema off? Oh no, did I remove my schema? That's gonna be bad.
they will
No,
be
no, no,
back.
here it is. Here it is. Great. Okay, so the same as the knows about thing. So I like tying things to Wikipedia. You can get more advanced. So we have some schema where we put it in the shadow DOM, and then we're that way you can't act using variables, and you can't actually reverse engineer that. But on the homepage, we have this stuff that ties it. But the service thing, I wanted to show you, has offer catalog. This was my thing of like, I want to try to, once again, this is not my full-time thing. I spend a couple hours here and there. I was trying to figure out, well, I agree with Koray. I have the same philosophy of you need to be something. Like, what are you offering besides just content? Well, I have an offer, and I'm basically saying educational materials. I have a cocktail creation tool. I'm declaring that via schema. I have a whiskey finder tool. I'm declaring that as an offer, and I have a distiller database. So these are my sort of like items offered that I was trying to get something of what it's not an actual offering, but to
Still,
Google, it makes it seem like it.
yeah, still actually for these content sites, as I say, if you also make people log in, for instance, register and log in to be able to use the tool or to use the tool more frequently, for instance, and if you're able to turn these people into a community for sharing recipes or their opinions, it will be having actually beyond just a wall site, for instance. It will be having some functions. That's why for any website, whether it's just an affiliate or media site, I started to add all these functions and functionalities like a business as much as possible. I also observed that they are ranking directly the staff or the employees from LinkedIn. So that's why I directly add the human beings behind the website through different platforms and the signals as well. So this is actually one of the good thinking there. And it would be helpful to maybe mention sometimes a dollar sign. For instance, you can also add a premium version of this tool, even if it doesn't exist. But still, you can actually add it there. Another thing that I do is changing the layout. I use e-commerce layout, for instance, for many comparison sites. For instance, I am adding, let's say, every cocktail like I am selling it. But I don't. But there are cocktail carts, for instance. I change the design and the layout. Maybe you already have it, for instance.
I just added
Good
this
design.
one. Thank you. So I just added I have too many, I think, over here right now. I'm experimenting with, I kind of put all of them on the sidebar. And the idea is, all I have is I wanted to make it where it's accessible to like do whatever you want to do. So I have anything where I just want more people to visit more pages. So I have that on the side. I've got my table of contents. And then what's the other piece I have to this? I have audio, try to create unique images, try to put the text in it. The other thing that I've been trying to do is emulate Wikipedia. So like this hover over, get the internal link thing. So
Yeah, I like it because it doesn't actually break the context directly because you are using a different HTML element there. So the text that is existing in the tooltip won't be interacting the closeness between first and the second sentence. So it's a good structure there.
okay, awesome. Yeah, so I have that. Something that I realized here, so I went to Google Trends to figure out which languages I should create for my site first. I wanted to see where whiskey was the most popular. I created too many, and this actually goes into what you had talked about earlier with indexability, crawlability, like how often are you being crawled? If you create a ton of languages, then all of a sudden you've just like exponentially increased the size of your site, and now the ratio and like kind of like, well, if I now have 100,000 pages and I'm only crawled at this frequency, my like score or Google's understanding of me, it just goes down. So I had to delete 5 languages and massive indexation boost. All of a sudden, everything was getting crawled more. So the one tip I was going to share with people is to apply that. Just make sure that don't go ham with languages. Half of my searches are in other languages, but you don't want to go too hard. Start small. Make sure indexation's constantly improving, and then like expand your content. But
Definitely.
yeah, so any tips for like how would you handle this? Because I have all my articles here. I've got
So
the.
the first thing is that about how many links you have per page, because the amount of the internal links that you have, it might be a little bit too much. Second thing is that I wouldn't repeat the links in the main content, also in the sidebar. I will mark them a little bit differently. Like maybe you can just directly go send the user to the specific paragraph or somewhere. But usually that sidebar in the semantic HTML, it should be in the aside tag because it's not directly inside the main content, but most of the links are there. And it is always visible in the screen. So usually I try to put most of the weight to the main content, and I try to use actually less or fewer amount of links when it is especially necessary as much as possible. Another part is that when you say, how does bourbon compare to the other whiskeys, you say, when you say the other whiskeys, it would be helpful to also mention the attribute explicitly, like type, for instance, other types of whiskeys or other whiskey types, for instance. And you are mentioning two different whiskeys there, Scotch whiskey and the Irish whiskey. So I will try to link actually first, if you have something like that in your topical map. I don't know the queries, but bourbon versus whiskey, for instance. First I would link there. From there, I will be linking to the Scotch and the Irish versions, for instance, rather than directly going to the Irish and the Scotch. I'm talking about the main content there. And overall, the structure, the layout is really good. I guess the name of this layout is Holy Grail. They call it Holy Grail layout because it has 3 different components, at least in the desktop version. And the images, could you come a little bit more bottom? You have your brand logo in the image, which is good. You have 2 main entities, and you directly write the text. The thing is, the inline images that I call them, is good. The only thing is there, you might try to put the entities into the more central, because Google will be cropping this image, and they will try to show it into the SERP snippet, and usually if the center of the image is not convenient for that, they might skip that image.
That's good.
You have the entity directly on the center, it will be helpful for that as well. And you start the question of the what is bourbon. So it's not a bad thing to ask, to be honest, but if you can also mention maybe some drink-related things, it might be helpful too, because some of the context there, even if it is clear for humans, the search engine will be looking at their actual index structures, and they might find place names for bourbon, football teams for bourbon, or some other things as well. So as usually for the H1, I try to keep it a little longer with more contextual phrases or annotations. In this case.
Oh yeah, like the colon, and then try to specify. Yeah, that is one thing I can definitely do. Is
and for the nutritional part, I didn't check the SERP, of course. I don't know. Although I have ranked a website for cocktails earlier, at least in my structure, I was also using certain type of tables with directly the nutritions. For instance, when you say the nutrition, the names of these nutritions should be existing in the H1 area. You have some of them all directly there. But I will put them earlier, if possible, with the most important attributes or nutrients in this case. And it will be also helpful to follow a structure in the attribute pairs. Let's say 3 main nutrients, then 1 main benefit, then 1 main risk, then let's say the optimum frequency for adults with pregnancy, or some other thing. But if you have a structure to follow, it will be helpful for you to write faster. And to not be so templated, to decrease the amount of the machine signal, you can sometimes change the place of these patterns. First, you can go with the pregnant adults, then you can go for someone else, for instance, let's say the older people, senior people, or people with certain type of diseases or the risks and the conditions. But overall, the structure is really good. I really like it, especially your design is unique. You also have the audio content, which is also really good too. Google will also be taking that into the consideration because you have different type of formats of the same content directly. And you can also turn this article into a video, and you can even actually try to rank also on YouTube too, like let's say the top 5 bourbon brands, top 5 bourbon, I don't know, manufacturers, whatever you want directly, because YouTube is also about virality, so it should create curiosity and click behaviors.
Let me show you this. I'm working on this inside a content sprout right now, and I have the video piece because I agree. Like put it into video. The other thing is like making images in the dimensions that work for Pinterest. So like you might as well try to get Pinterest traffic at the same time if you're already going to be creating content. Let's see what this.
I will definitely use actually Pinterest, but the main thing there is, if you are taking traffic from the Pinterest, it should also prove that there is a community behind it. This is really good, by the way. I'm not sure how did you design all this. What?
Here we go. There we go. Hit play. So yeah, here's the video. This is just first attempt. We're trying to just like, how do I convert from blog content, distill it into like prompts that can then create something. So we're obviously trying a lot of animation here and whatnot, but it's got the voice. It's talking about a lot of this stuff. It gets a little bit weird, but yeah, that's the idea. You might as well put this out, right?
Yeah, it's completely okay and completely good. The only thing there is, I also know a few, let's say, YouTube patterns. There is something that they actually call frame-based, let me just try to remember, temporal local actions and the frame-based flow, which means that for every frame of the video, they actually stop it. Then they skip, let's say, 5,000 frames. They get another frame from there, and they try to understand the connection or the flow between these frames. If some of the frames have broken objects or fluid objects, let's say, due to the AI, it will be a clear signal for them for a few things to label, let's say. But overall, this is very good for a business without a studio, basically.
Yeah, that's the thing, is so many don't have studios.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, like, the only time the frame is broken is when you try to do really complex things. The zoom in sort of things, you can create images and not have like all of the movement. So
if there is no movement,
this was like,
actually a perfect story, I can tell. It's really nice. Well done.
Thanks. Yeah, that was the idea for that one was, hey, try to turn this into a video because you might as well.
Yeah, but there is one thing when you think, Andrew, because the SEO gets harder, entry cost is going higher, and many agencies don't have these standard operations or standard services. The clients also don't know what to demand, what to audit as well. So that's why I always say since SEO is not regulated and trained or taught in universities, it gets always harder to define the scope of the work or necessary steps. That's why I believe we need some standardization so that everyone can be happy. The consultants, first you need to prove that it is necessary. Then you need to train the client. Then you need to prepare all the necessities because no one did it earlier. So you are the first one who is doing that. So
it's true.
Yeah, it's like always exploring new words with your mind, and it's not a job for everyone, I can tell.
It definitely isn't. I have a lot of fun with it. It's I wish I had more time to dedicate to it, but my time's kind of split up. I had two questions I want to ask because I know for my group, this is actually, I think, and based on me interacting in your group, I can see that there's a gap for people's understanding. So I wanted to fill the gap with this, and I'll post the answer on YouTube Shorts or something. But how would you apply the Topical Authority strategy and tactics to a local business? So this local business is only going to be serving, we'll say, let's use a dentist because that typically you have about a 5-mile.
So about the local section, I believe I published it in a few case studies, but I didn't put it into the course because when we have the Topical Authority as an entity, you also have the local entities, and you can be an authority about a locality as well. And we directly call it actually local authority or local penetration of that specific brand. The local penetration is directly a concept from a patent. I just integrated into my methodology. And to see a live example, you can directly check, actually, I believe the website name was Rental Center Crete. The owner, I believe Harry Anapolis, is directly in our community, and it was a local SEO project. I didn't...
Rental Center?
Rental Center Crete, it should be. I am not active for the project over 15 months, so I don't know how it is doing, but it was doing good when I left it. But it is actually one of the good example local SEO businesses because it's a rental car business just for Crete. It puts us into a different type of situation because I have to be an authority for service, which is car rental. Then also I need to be an authority for the location. In the course too, I explained this a little bit because in my 2023 Zakopane speech, it should be, there was an example topical map that I have used for 4 different islands. One was for Crete, one was for Iceland, one was for Saint Martin. There was one more island I don't remember. And I was using a very similar structure because Iceland website was about ice-related tours, and we were selling tours. The Crete website was about actually just the car rental. The Saint Martin website was about actually hotels, so hotel booking or the beaches or reservations in restaurants. The 4th one was slightly different, but it was also a very small island like Mauritius or somewhere. But the main thing here is that I always use the same structure. Whenever I have an island, for instance, I directly go for the entities of that island according to my business model. If I am a tour company, I go for mountains or let's say the Iceland-related geographical situations. But if I'm a car rental business, first I go for the cars itself, how to rent this specific car, especially in Crete. Then what you'll be doing after the car rental. For instance, I rank for a specific type of beach, for its quality, for its review. Then at the top, I always have a CTA, rent car for going to this beach. If I am ranking for all the airports, all the beaches, all the restaurants, all the nightclubs, hotels, or even mosques or churches, whatever you have in the Crete, you will always be ranking for anything in that location, and you'll be always inserting the car renting context. The thing here is that when someone searches for a beach club, car renting is not the context. And that's why I have that contextual vector, which means order of headings. Most of the headings, most of the document will be just about that beach club. I will just be inserting the car rental so diluted, it won't be changing your relevance. It won't be preventing you from ranking for that query. And I am doing it with a CTA. So I am ranking for the that local entity from that Crete, and then I am actually inserting the car rental. And there are also another section of the topical map. We don't have the Crete, but we have the car brands. We directly be an authority for the brands and the models of the cars. Then we add the predicate rent. Then we link back to the actual rent context. So you are taking authority from the cars and the location, and then you always actually merge it at the middle, which is the car rental in Crete. You directly create 2 different segments. It goes also the same for the dentist as well. You first will need to rank for that specific location. You can use actually, again, you will need to find the attributes for your business model. It might be demographics. It might be, if you are a dentist, it might be about the dental problems of that specific state or whatever, for instance. Dental insurance, it might be, for instance. Anything with the dentist.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff.
You will also need to go for beyond the location. And let's say you are a cosmetic dentistry, or I guess they call it smile design or whatever. And then you will need to actually rank for all the materials, the procedures, the equipments, etc. And you will always need to link back to your local section, flow the authority back to the local area. The main thing here is that if you are a dentist from Alabama, you don't need that much a big topical map with really good amount of details in the semantic content network, because Alabama is not that much hard to rank in. But if you're a dentist in the New York City, then you will need really a good granular topical map with lots of different type of context there. For probably mentioning the name will make some people angry, but let's say Oscar Wilde, for instance. You can check that we are ranking with, I don't know how many, about 150 different type of optometry stores for different Australian locations, for instance. And we always have different stuff there. Website has many flows, and I hope we won't need any censorship, because whenever I mention a website name, I am taking some risk of making some people angry. And if it is a situation, I am sorry, Henry, my old king, but I hope it will be okay when you come to Turkey. So basically, you can always actually create 2 different topical maps, one for location, one for the industry that you are in, and you will need to merge it. The hard part might be finding most related attributes of the location, because for islands, it's very clear. I used literally the same dynamics for 4 different islands, for 4 different business models. Yeah. It worked really well because they are all islands. But when it comes to these more complicated industries or occupations, it might be a little bit harder to find these attributes, because in Alabama, you might not have that much to think about dental demographics. Usually for these situations, I go one higher level. Over the Alabama, you can have maybe North America. If there is no query for it, for instance, you can go for the United States of America, for example. But you should find the queries. That's one of the obligations. You should follow the query because you will get historical data from the query. If there is no query, there is no index. And you are forcing search engine to create a new index just for you. So that's why I always tell, a topical map is not a concept map. You don't follow a regular dictionary directly. You follow the queries, you bind a query to a page based on a logic, and that logic comes from, again, the query's nature.
Okay. So with the dentist, it seems easier with the island, with car rental. It's easy because vacation, you know, beach, talk about a beach, because you...
I already actually have some examples of cosmetic dentistry in Turkey for these type of projects. But the main thing is that, for instance, in dentists, especially for cosmetic dentistry, even if you are located in Turkey, you are getting clients from Mexico, from United States, from UK. And then you will need to expand your topical map even further because you want to process the locations that your clients are in. In this case, we actually expand and compare, for instance, UK dental prices and Turkey dental prices. Then we also do it for individual cities. First, we rank for that individual city, like let's say Manchester dental cosmetic dentistry, and we directly rank with a website for Turkish dentists there, for instance, and we directly start communication with the client for a price point of view, and we also offer dental tourism, which brings us to the subject of dental tourism again. And it will go like this: dental tourism overall, and dental tourism Turkey, dental tourism Algeria. Why? Because Algeria is competing with Turkey. So you will need to compare both of them to each other too. According to your location and your users, where they are, how they are searching, where they are searching from, your local section of topical map might be also diversified from Mexico to Algeria, for instance. So always there is a connection between them. And again, for other section, we of course get all these things like veneers, and you will get multiple things like what is veneers, then veneers implants as a type of implant, then also you will go get cost of veneers, then veneers Turkey. That Turkey section always will be linked from other 4 or 5 other veneer section. Then you will get a comparison, veneers versus zirconium. Then zirconium again, implant, zirconium, let's say advantages, benefits, whatever. Then zirconium Turkey. And you will always need to connect from Turkey to the dental tourism Turkey, then dental tourism, then comparison between, let's say, UK dental prices and Turkey dental prices. This was the structure that I used mostly, for instance, for the dental tourism there. I guess this gives some idea of how to use it for.
That does give some idea. For the U.S. cities, because Turkey is a famous spot for tourism, for medical tourism. But it does give me some idea where I think what people could do is possibly compare, you know, small town prices versus larger town price, maybe a state versus another state. You could, I think you could approach it in a variety of ways. I think the thing that I just want to make sure people don't fall into, and this is what I used to do back in 2020, is alter your focus, the site focus, too much by creating all this supporting content about cities. So I'll give you an example of, like, in the mortgage niche, I did this and it actually works fine because for mortgage, I can rate the best restaurants, I can rate best parks, I can rate all those different things, talk about them, because the context of a mortgage is I'm interested in living there and what are the components of living in an area. You go to a park, you have schools, you have restaurants. If someone's trying to evaluate, you know, this action of I want a mortgage, that makes sense. That's not the case. I'm not talking about best restaurants. I can't connect it.
Yeah, definitely. So you should always stay on the subject and try to calculate the type and the amount of historical data that you are taking from that specific query. For instance, if you create a content like, let's say effect of white smile, for instance, for social communication or whatever, the topic or the main context there is actually about getting social rather than actually dentistry. So it will be, that's why I actually have a course section in my topical map and author section. That's why I'm prioritizing them. For instance, what I mentioned just here, it will be like way author, because it's like getting social thanks to the teeth or dentistry. But if you are able to adjust your topical map according to your local competition, as I say, if you are in Alabama, probably you won't need that much. But if you are in New York City, then you will need to go with, let's say, way much more serious thinks that. The same also goes for legal or law industry or the law grants and the lawyers as well.
So,
That's true.
but that one,
Get example cases or some, let's say, different type of news context that you can integrate with the evergreen content. But the main thing is that if it gets easier, since everyone will be creating it, it will also get harder too, because you will need to find tiny points to create a difference. But usually when you have too many competitors, actually, it's easier to also create a difference, because most people won't be doing what you are doing anyway. So after one or two updates, you will be one of the main players. But if everyone is so clear, like crystal clear, then it eventually, again, you will need to deep dive and find the teeny tiny differences. That's why actually what you did, that embedding, is nice, because most of the time the clients, they don't understand the difference between their content and other websites' content. They always tell that my content is better and the other one is not. But when you show them these embeddings, these maps, they start to get full picture from math point of view. So that's why I believe having that type of an angle would be helpful for these people in these conditions with creating a topical map for this location and this topic is easy, but if it is easy, then it means that your map will need to be more detailed and it will need to be tailored way better.
Yeah, I like what you said about the, you kind of applied the reason behind why you want. Typically, people care. You're wanting to invest in dental stuff for two reasons. One, there's health, and two, lifestyle. It's you want to be seen a certain way. You don't want to be insecure. You want to maybe date people. You want social situations. There's all sorts of social situations of like, if I have nice teeth, then I'll feel better or whatever. So I think that's, no matter what the industry, I think this is a copywriting principle too. It's just, you need to abstract, think of the audience and apply the understanding of like, why does this matter to them, and why does that?
For instance, I was creating a few semantic content network for the Forex, for instance, and I had a topic there like, what are the best Forex trading strategies, for instance, for Asia or Asian traders? And the owner was thinking that there is not that much difference between UK trading and the Asia trading. Then I added that to the AI with a certain prompt. It was able to give at least 49 reasons for having different strategies, like because the time zone and the geography is different, basically all the prices are affected from different stuff. The volumes are different, amount of traders are different. And the AI is able to think, technically it's not thinking, but it's able to generate more tailored structures or tailored for what you need. So use it.
Yeah, AI is amazing for that. It's just because while a one-click AI solutions can't cover everything by far, it helps with some things. AI, just because it can't do one-click, AI mixed with human brain is awesome.
Another example, for instance, I was creating a brief for face, I believe, the face washing routine. So there were two headings there. One of them was or face cleaning routine or something like that. One question was about actually for the morning routine. The other one was for the night routine. And again, the writer was telling that there is no difference. But when I go to the AI, with especially my agents that I created for the community, AI was telling that in the morning, you are coming from a different condition. In the night, you are actually cleaning all the dirt from the outside. In the morning, you are cleaning all the oil from the sleep, for instance. And it requires actually different steps and different materials to be used in. And that's why actually I created these agents. And I started to share it with the community. Some of the members already got the access. And the 2.0 module in the course is mostly about the agents that we should be using for the semantics. And I believe I'll be opening it to everyone. Just I need a little bit more time for tailoring some of them, but there will be like probably 40 agents that I will be sharing for semantics. So basically just use it to get your new ideas. It doesn't use any external API. It's directly on the GPT as an agent.
Cool.
And there is actually some example outputs I am giving. Then I am giving some constraints and limitations and always on instructions. I try to keep it simple with simple rules. Probably I will be creating a video series for them, but it's mostly for the community, private community. But we also have some public members who uses them currently as well, and we are not against that.
Awesome. Well, I have one more question for you, and then we have to end this because we're already almost at 2 hours. For another 2 hours, I'm pretty sure. So the other group in my community, so we have business owners that are like local business owners, and then we have the agencies that actually want to rank for their own, use SEO to rank for their own, I guess, bring in clients through SEO using their agency website. And use your methodologies for as an agency for agencyxyz.com they target, because they could start with, they could do a glossary of like all of the SEO terms. They could do the industry. The thing that I think is really hard, if you could address it too, is the connect only trying SEO in SEO, and like that's not a so I would love if you would address that too.
Yes, this is exactly what you said. They just put two words together.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
Yeah, especially SEMrush, I see it a lot, like SEO tool for, let's say, I don't know, the bakery or wedding planning.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just going ham right now. I'm like, this is not, and all the time they're like, can I do this? I'm like, the tool is designed around unpacking an entity, and if you bring these together and they have no connection,
Yeah,
dentist.
definitely. The front point of the search engine, if the search engine realizes that there are 1,000 documents with the same title tag, they will behave like there is the query, and they will start the index and ranking them like that. And right now, all the agencies, since they create these things, they actually compete with each other for themselves, to be honest, mostly. And most of the them don't know to search for it, to be honest, that much. But basically, if you're an agency and if you want to use the SEO, the first thing is that I believe, in my opinion, if you use SEO for getting SEO clients, you will get very, very cheap clients. I must tell that. The conversion won't work for it. And that's why most of the time the SEO content is perceived as free content or free school, basically. So as an agency, you might not get actually what you are looking for. Personally, this is my opinion. And but still, if you really want to have a really huge topical map content network and a huge traffic from the SEO type of, let's say, the phrases, I will try to choose the most actually conversion value queries first, and I will try to put them into my course section of topical map. And most of the time, these phrases, they don't have to mention even the phrase SEO. It might be directly like marketing agency or just marketing consultant, because people even don't know whether SEO exists. They just search these things like merged together, SEO, marketer, marketing, web developer, or whatever. So that's why I will try to rank for anything that SEO is touching, as you have shown just that video, to be honest. But when you do that, you want to follow the queries. If you have anything with, let's say, the web development, in this case, you don't have to process every programming languages, to be honest, but at least you can create a few things like web development agency or web development services like front end, back end. And from the bottom of that content, you can connect it back to the SEO one more time. When it comes to the SEO, you can have the main fundamental verticals of the SEO in that topical map. But I wouldn't open these different pages for every occupation unless there is search demand. If people are searching for it for some certain regions, I would actually open it. Because if there is a search demand, the search engine will perceive it from authority point of view as well. But if there is no search demand, I wouldn't open it at all. But probably you will be having just 5 or 6 pages that are worth to create from conversion point of view. And their geography is important. For instance, if you look for conversion value, the countries matter. If you go for Germany and, let's say, the New York and some other regions, you will get higher, let's say, pay rate. So that's why actually adjusting your topical map for these regions, then distributing to the concepts around that will be actually very much more helpful. And if you want to be an authority for the subject of SEO, yeah, you will need to process basically everything by starting from 1999, because the topic starts from there. The history of the topic in the query logs, it matters. You will need to process the GUBUR score, you will need to process every Google update like Pigeon update, Winston update from 2009. So you will need to go for historical topics from the past.
So top
and
thing.
back to, yeah, and you will need to process all these historical topics, and you want to connect it to the latest, let's say, evergreen subjects as well. And you want to process also anything about Google. It's not just SEO too, like why it is called Google, what is Google metrics, for instance, which is highly related to actually also the SEO in this case as well. So you want to be an authority for Google, you want to be an authority for SEO, and you want to process other segments related to SEO, web development, marketing, and other sections. So it requires a really huge website, to be honest. And in this case, if you don't have enough level of budget, try to focus on this high level of conversion value let's say, pages and try to be closer or around them. So if you rank at top for SEO agency, for instance, in Germany, it is true that still you will get lots of leads, but most of the leads, again, the average value per lead won't be that high, unfortunately, because I believe there is a logic behind SEO. People see it like free traffic. And usually, low-budget businesses search for free traffic. And this creates a constraint, or it decreases the value per lead. So that's why I will create that topical map in a strategic way for high-value clients or high-value leads. I wouldn't try to go for every city, every occupation, every query. I will try to rank for SEO subjects and flow my authority for only these high-value conversion pages as much as possible. If I have endless amount of budget, I will process everything. But
Everything, of course.
Since I won't be having it, I will need a prioritization for lead generation.
So does that mean when you say process things like be really broad, not commercial?
Way much more granular, because these things are already processed on the web. So if I am bringing a new website, I will go beyond that. In this case, web crawler is one of them, but also web parser is also one of them too. If I have the parser, I need browser. If I have the browser, then I will need to explain V8 engine, which is existing in the Chrome browser. Then I will need to process every browser. If I have every browser, from there I will need to go for web accessibility and cross-browser checks, for instance, audits. You want to go way more, let's say, broader, because there are three principles. You will go broader, you will go deeper, you will go faster. If you can't go broader, then you will need to go deeper in this case with every subject that you have. So that's why if you're able to have all of them, if you can create a broader site with deeper angles and deeper connections, as you have shown that embedding intensity, for instance, you can have more triples with higher accuracy. If you publish it also faster, then you are implementing all the principles that you can implement. Then you will definitely be successful. But usually projects lack at least one of them. If you can't go faster, then you want to go actually deeper and wider, for instance, in the topics. So having only web crawler won't work there. It is already processed. There are at least maybe 15,000 websites like that. So I need to go more unique, and I need to go deeper for that in this case.
That makes sense. So it's very hard, I think, to make SEO work for bringing in leads. That's what my start was, literally ranking for my city SEO, and I would only get, even with 800 search volume a month, and I was ranked #1 on. I experienced the same thing.
As I said, your business model matters for your topical map. If I would like to get all this SEO traffic, I will create a SaaS, not an agency. I will create a SaaS, and I will try to convert most of the consultants to the SaaS users, most of the businesses to the clients. So if you have both of these angles for such a huge topical map, you will actually convert way much more people. And I will keep the SaaS cheap as much as possible, because SEO queries are really popular. And I will try to keep it, let's say, very automated, because most SEOs won't be going that deep. So if it is able to suggest, let's say, 60 suggestions with just one click, if they pay, let's say, $10 per month, I will keep it actually, like, again, as a winning. So also it will be helpful for you, because you will have a SaaS angle. So because you're an agency, you're a SaaS, basically it's not a content site anymore. So you will have even more advantages. When it comes to SEO, I don't mention that much of tool names or something, but there are some SaaS websites that is doing that already. They try to rank for everything about SEO concepts, and they try to always convert. So most of the time, the SEO subjects, rather than the SEO clients, it is for SEO consultants to sell a kind of SaaS for them. But if you have both of them, it will be even better.
Okay. I'll try to, man, it's so hard to distill into something for people that's like, basically don't invest too heavily into this unless you need.
But think like that. If you go to the Google Trends, create an alert for the SEO, or go directly.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And you will get lots of cheat backlinks there. Because I am getting always daily mails for the SEO from the Google alerts. And I always check what type of links SEO agencies are actually buying, and I just check actually what they are publishing, just for fun. And you will see that actually it's not good at all, and you will see that industry is very active too, so it should be worth that. That's why I suggest actually having SaaS together with agency so that you can convert everyone. But if it is just agency, I will go specific and small, and I will focus on actually, let's say, having unique success stories and social media marketing or some other angles there, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes total sense. All right, I have connect with you.
So they can always actually find me through any platform, to be honest. I don't check any DM anymore. It's not possible for my biological limitations. But you can always join to the Holistic SEO communities on Facebook, on Reddit, on Telegram, Discord, or LinkedIn as well. You are always welcome to join to the Topical Authority course or academy and the private community as well. We will be happy to publish your success story. Right now, we have 228 success shares in the community in the last 16 months, and this is just the amount of people who shared it. There are also others who didn't. And also, we will be doing some masterminds in Kuşadası and conferences in Istanbul. I hope we can also meet in person with you as well. Andrew,
I'd love to.
Looking forward. I know that you are a father, but I hope you will be able to travel so far. Yeah, we will be having even also a guest for this mastermind in September, which is invite only from Spain, from Malaga, Luis Salazar Jurado. He's also a good SEO too. And also, I am thankful for anything that SEO industry has given to me, and I am looking for giving back and sharing very much better memories all together.
Prep time. I'm always down to chat with you, man.
I will be always happy to chat with you. Now, actually, I will go to the Ephesus with my family, to the ancient city. I can tell. I will send you the pictures from there once I am there.